I just bought a Mamiya. Yeah, it's not exactly the same as what other people mean when they say they bought a Mamiya, but it is a Mamiya. This is the Mamiya 16 automatic, and it's probably not what you expect. It's very small, and that's because this was in the spy camera market. It uses 16mm film, and it's automatic? No, it's really not. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I got this camera because a little bit later this year, I'll be going overseas on holiday. This is not something I get to do very often, and so whenever I do, I like to think long and hard about the cameras that I'll take. Now, originally, I was just going to take a digital camera, and if I needed something smaller and more compact, I'd use my phone. And that's fine, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that approach. But this is me, I genuinely love film, and so the longer I thought about this holiday, the more excited I got, and the more I thought I really want to take a film camera with me. And I have lots of options. This whole channel goes through the fact that I have so many cameras I need to sell them. So why did I get another one? Well, as you can see, this is tiny. But it has one other advantage for me that's usually terrible for everyone else. One, it's probably not going to take some very good photos. Now, the first video that I started doing in the series talking about cameras was a disposable camera. And when I used that, it gave me a good appreciation for sometimes using a camera that has very limited abilities means that you just start having fun with it more. You stop worrying about making your photos perfect, worrying about the nuances of composition. I mean, with this thing, this is my viewfinder. I'm going to be lucky if I can align anything with this. So having this idea at the very start that I'm probably not going to be able to take amazing photographs means that I stop worrying about complex lighting, composition, exact framing, and I just start worrying about having fun. And that's great. And considering I'm going to be doing this as a tour, I don't really have the time to set up a tripod, get the camera perfectly aligned, take multiple measurements of the lighting conditions. I'm just going to have to wind on, open up the lens, and click. Now, there are a couple of drawbacks of this, and the first you've probably seen right in the center here. While this amazing, fantastic, I wish this was field of vision, this clicky dial here is my shutter selector. And it only goes between 200 down to, well, half a second or bulb. But the problem is 1/200th is not that fast. In fact, I have zeniths, which are considered, pitiful in terms of shutter selection, and even they go up to 1/500th of a second. This is going to be very limiting. I'm pretty much stuck with using these 3 shutter speeds. Maybe if I can find something to lean against, going down to a 25th or a 10th, but yeah, it's going to be a challenge. The other thing is, this whole section here, I now can only use for selecting my aperture. This does have a lens that goes down to f2.8, that's fantastic. It has square aperture blades, it's going to be a little hard for me to show those off here, but that's not great. But critically, this is the light meter. And as I've said time and time again, this is a selenium cell light meter. They all die. This one has died. Normally, it would have a little needle here that moves backward and forward. You align them, and then you match all your settings, wind on, and go. Fantastic. If I had infinite time and money, I'd love to do something where I get like a solar cell and a light meter, and then I put a supercapacitor in here, and I get a stepper motor, and it moves the little needle back and forth. I'm going on holiday in a couple of months. There's no way I'm going to be able to do something like that. I'm not even sure I could do that with, a year's worth of time. But that's something to worry about for the future. Another cool little feature is this filter here. We have a yellow filter by default. Isn't that amazing? I might see if there's a way I can get a red filter or a neutral density filter in here. Though, again, with the shutter speeds, I'm not sure that's going to be too much of a problem. So, thankfully, there is a little trapdoor down here you can change the filters with. Awesome. So that's a really quick overview of the camera, and there's a little more I could talk about, but we'll leave that for the moment. I think what happens next is I need to get this thing ready for my holiday, and there's a couple of problems I need to get through first. One is it reliable? Now, I'm going to cheat here and actually tell you yes it is, because when I got it originally, the aperture wasn't fully closing, and so I opened it up and I relubricated it and figured out some of the mechanics and made sure that all of the levers were in the right place. Yes, this I believe is going to be reliable enough that I can take it overseas. It's dead simple. It has some, really interesting minimal mechanics in here. And in fact, me opening it up and giving it a once over, I will link down here. I do have a Twitch channel. I very infrequently go online. But, if you want to see me open up lenses and cameras every now and again and just figure out how they work and hopefully get them back together, feel free to check that out. So, problem one is it reliable? I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. And, let's see if in a couple of months' time I come back saying that was a horrible mistake. Number two is film. I said at the very start, this is a 16mm film. Now, there's two main ways that you have 16mm film. Number one is the 110 cartridge. I'm just going to spoil your hopes and dreams here. This doesn't take a 110 cartridge. This takes one of these. Now, this was pretty common at the time. You didn't have, a cartridge that was common across all of these little spy cameras. In fact, Minox would be one of the more well-known spy camera brands. Thank you, James Bond. And it doesn't even use 16mm. It uses 9.5. And one of the reasons for that is so that you can cut strips of it straight out of a 35mm cartridge. I was really fortunate. This camera actually came with a refillable cartridge. Originally, when these were made, you had the option of getting a refillable cartridge, which was the expensive solution, or you could go and buy individual cartridges. It was just kind of like one half of this, and it had your film and you wound it back in on one side. And there were fairly limited selection of films that came out that way. So this is great. I can reload it. But if I'm on holiday, I can't really reload it very easily. I don't really want to take a whole roll of cine film or medium format and cut it down and have a whole dark tent with me. So I'm going to need a solution where I have 6, 8, 10, I don't know, many of these. I need many of these. And there's two main solutions. One is you buy these original plastic ones, or even cooler, there's a metal one now. At this time, I have ordered a metal one of these. And it cost more than the entire camera did. These are not common anymore. So the next option is to 3D print them. There are STL files out there that you can find. If you have a friend or if you go to a public library, just remember you are still going to need to put some felt in this little slit here. And these are fairly thin walls. I don't know how well 3D printing will go, but maybe in the future I might have some. We'll see. I'll see about asking a friend or going to the library and seeing if I can get some of these printed, and I'll tell you how well they work if we do that. So, problem one, cartridges. Problem one, B, film for the cartridges. Now, I mentioned these things took Cinefilm, and you can buy Cinefilm. You can buy rolls of Kodak 5222, I think it is. Wolfen also makes their UN54 available, and there is also the R100 from FOMA. But all of those, as far as I can tell, have really narrow dynamic range, and that's a problem because I'm on holiday. I'm not going to be able to control the lighting situations like you can with Cinefilm. Like, normally if you're doing a movie, it will be in a lovely, well-illuminated set, and you can really control the dynamic range and beautiful soft light, all that, lovely stuff. I don't have none of that because I'll be on holiday. So, I'll prefer to use something like Mamiya 100 or 400, maybe FP4. I'm not 100% sure. But I do know I'm probably going to be looking up what films have enormous dynamic range to give me the best chances of being able to take the photos. So that's problem 1B. Okay, so mechanical reliability, then film, then lastly, how am I going to develop it? The fact is that this thing takes a tiny picture, and that gives some extra challenges when it comes to developing. Now, I do rotary processing in a Jobo. I really enjoy it. I'm not going to pretend it's like the best way to do it. I'm sure there's so many opinions out there on film developing and what's going to work best. But what I will say is I want something that will fit in with my normal way of developing that's going to give me good results. Now, for everyone who knows film developers, I use Pyrocat HD, and it is really hard to get in Australia. I have to buy it on eBay off some dude in Lithuania, and last time I don't think border security liked it very much, so I'm not sure if he's willing to make it and send it out here again. I could try to make it from base chemistry, but that's going to get really expensive. I'm not sure. Recently, I did see that I could get Pyro 510, and maybe that's an option, but I'm going to have to think really hard about what's going to be the best developer to give me the most resolution, sharpness, dynamic range for the tiny little photos that this thing makes. And I think I'm going to have to go and search and take a look through all of my negatives and see if I can come up with something that I like. It's not a challenge I've tried before, but it is something that I'm looking forward to. So, I'm going to leave it there today, but that's going to be the challenge. Let's get this thing working so I'm able to take photos overseas on film and not feel so bad that I'm taking 2 backpacks worth of gear.